What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm No Strackmine, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are coming off a 17-14 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but plenty to talk about from their weekend performance and even more to talk about as a late weekend trade emerged last night that the Pittsburgh Steelers were not a part of, but obviously raised a lot of questions about if they should have been a part of it. We'll dive into all of that plus more, Jacob. It's a good one here in the city of Pittsburgh. Hope you enjoyed a peaceful Sunday for the most part. If you were not an Eagles, a Texans, or a Cincinnati Bengals fan, things seem to be very okay in the city of Pittsburgh. How you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. Feeling like I got a nice I'm not a big napper, but as I've gotten
Yeah.
older, I've become more accustomed to the napping culture. And I
Yes.
took maybe the fattest of naps yesterday for a couple of hours where Tori had to wake me up afterwards. So that's a recharging moment for me. So I'm feeling good. I'm coming into this new week excited. I feel like there's lots of fun stuff that has sort of shifted my demeanor on the
Yes.
Steelers offense that I'm eager to chat about you with. So I'm doing good. And to top it all off, I'm inspired by our time up at Latrobe, and I got my Mr. Rogers cardigan on today. So we are doing great, my man.
I was actually, as you were talking, we were talking before the podcast, but my mind was like all over the place. I had a bunch of tabs open and it didn't click until you were talking right there. And I was looking at you going, is he wearing a cardigan? Is he wearing
Yeah.
a cardigan? It's all
Oh
right,
yeah.
dude. You, of all people, you'd have to, first off, cardigans are fantastic. Okay.
Mhm.
Used to own one, tried to be a Cardigan guy, couldn't do it.
Yeah, you got it.
You know what I mean? Doesn't match the mullet. It's just not, it's a personality trait. And I respect the hell out of that personality trait, but I don't have it. You look good. It's a
My man.
studly way to start a Monday for sure. I agree with you on the fat naps. We were texting back and forth. That text conversation was one reply in 7 hours because you woke up from, I texted you while you were sleeping. You woke up texting me while I was sleeping. And then this morning I was like, hey, here's the response that I should have sent at 6 o'clock last night. But I feel you recharged, ready to go. New week, off to UPMC Rooney Sports Complex for the first time in what feels like forever to see the Pittsburgh Steelers today. Very excited for it. Over the weekend, though, a trade happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers that, I mean, obviously everybody's going to talk about. People are going to rag on them for, have an opinion one way or another. I'm interested in yours. John Mechie, a name that someone in our live chat, shout out to good old Chris, has mentioned 400 times at least. Go get a Houston Texans wide receiver. We have argued both for and against it at times. Mechie goes to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for Harrison Bryant, tight end, and a 5th-round pick, but they also give up a 6th-round pick or receive a 6th-round pick in return. You look at the John Mechie trade, 25 years old, has never done much in the NFL, but has also been looked at as a guy with plenty of upside coming in as a former 2nd-round pick. I mean, when you saw the news, when you saw the Schefter tweet, what were your thoughts on John Mechie here going to Philly?
You know, everything that Philadelphia touches lately seems, has that Midas touch of turning to gold here. So
Yes.
it instantly set up, all of those alarm flags. Like, well, if the Eagles see Mechie as a contributor or like a person that can fit into this offensive scheme, yeah, you might have to look out. The trade on like a value sort of evaluation, I think was pretty even. Like it seemed
Yeah.
like the Texans needed some tight end help, the Eagles needed some depth at the wide receiver position, late round swaps, whatever. That's all well and good, but I mean, anyone going to Philadelphia right now seems like they are going to improve immediately. So I am kind of stirring in my mind about this because I'm like, is John Mechie a wide receiver too in waiting? And maybe we have written it off because we have just, like you said, we've argued for and against the Houston Texans wide receiver room and sort of the
Yeah.
efficacy of the players within it. Maybe there's some more talent there to be unearthed there with John Mechie, some more production to come from John Mechie here with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm sure he's going to be another another strong performer. I'm not expecting, a breakout campaign. We're talking about superstar John Mechie next summer, but 500-600 yards in the Eagles offense, I think is not out of the question anymore. So yeah, good trade for the Eagles.
I definitely a good trade for the Eagles. I think that, you have tight ends. It's no big deal. In the Pittsburgh Steelers realm of things, you look at it and go, you have tight ends as well. You could have given one up. And I'll state this very firmly. If the Pittsburgh Steelers were sitting there and the Eagles were saying, yeah, we'll give you John Mechie for Darnell Washington, my answer would be no. Good. Darnell Washington looks like a cheat code this summer. There is no reason to give up on Darnell, especially with Jonnu Smith being injured. And just it's a risky move in the wrong direction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. John Mechie, maybe at his best, is a wide receiver too, but at his worst is, no better than Roman Wilson and what Calvin Austin have been. And you already have Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin. There's just no need for another guy here. At the same time, though, they don't end. The tight end conversation does not end at Darnell Washington. The Pittsburgh Steelers have like 40 tight ends. Connor Hayward would have been the next name on the list if the Houston Texans called you and said, John Mechie on the block, we need a tight end. And the Steelers said, Connor Hayward, he's a name for sure. Would you do it? If you were the Pittsburgh Steelers, would you give up Connor Hayward? And would you just swap this trade and replace Harrison Bryant for Connor Hayward and acquire John Mechie in the process from Houston?
Honestly, yeah. I think it would have been, I would have maybe said it was too much on a value sort of perspective to give up. But yeah, Connor Hayward sitting there as your fourth tight end, keeps showing these very nice plays at times, but they seem to be few and far in between. And it's tough. I think I've said something like this before, but he seems sort of positionless to me. Like, he's a heck of an athlete. Yes. He's got great hands, but what the Steelers want to do at the tight end position specifically requires a size element that he just does not possess. So I wonder if another team had, a vision of how to use him. I think it would make a ton of sense, especially if you were getting another wide receiver to add to the room. Yes. So yeah, I would have pulled the trigger on this trade if Connor Hayward was the name to swap in there for. But I do agree with you 100% in the not having Darnell Washington on the table for this, especially if it was John Mechie coming back the other way. So yeah, I would swap Hayward in there, but that's where I'd end it. JJ Galbraith, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you want the guy that's not going to be on the roster in a week? That's all yours, dude. You can have him. We don't even need the sixth. Keep the fifth. And JJ, you have a good time. We'll take John Mechie. I agree. Let me run this theory by you. Okay. This thought, because as it was happening, I was sound asleep. And then I woke up and my mind's racing. I'm obviously sitting down, trying to come up with stories for the morning, just evaluate everything. And my mind goes to a place of, what if Omar doesn't even care? What if Omar's sitting there going, John Mechie isn't winning us a Super Bowl? It's just not happening. And maybe, just maybe, the Pittsburgh Steelers are not looking at small trades because they're looking at big trades. They're looking at big moves. They're saying, Terry McLaurin is still on the board somewhere. We've already called Washington. We just got a close-up look to everybody in Tampa, and the consensus is everyone looks good in Tampa. Everyone. Maybe we're having conversations over there about what could happen at the wide receiver room in a different way. Odell Beckham Jr. and Aaron are talking. Maybe that's a move. Gabe Davis looks healthy and said something on the Shane Gillis podcast about how he feels he's going to play for a team in the Northeast or whatever. And I was like, well, the Buffalo Bills are probably the landing spot there, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are certainly, for somebody who does not know geography very well, Northeast enough. They're up there and it's snowy and it's close enough. It's not Midwest yet. It's about 45 minutes away, but it's not Midwest yet. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking in other directions. Maybe they're saying John Mechie's too small of an addition for a room that we already have John Mechie's in, and we're looking for other names. And maybe I'm totally off base here, but I watched it. I saw it happen, and I go, I don't know if Omar even called the Houston Texans to check on John Mechie, because I think Omar is still focused on options A, and Mechie might be option C, and he's just not there yet. we have a week, a lot can change. And people say, oh, it's only a week. No, it's a week. A lot can change. The Pittsburgh Steelers they did not start this looking yesterday. They have been doing this for months. And if the right name presents itself in the next 7 days, like Mark Caboli has predicted, then maybe they're very comfortable with pushing away the smaller options because they're waiting for the bigger ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think Omar Khan would be right in that if that is the line of thinking that is maybe happening behind closed doors, he would be right in my opinion, because they should be big game hunting if they're going for anything at all, or else they should just be okay with what they saw. Like I fail to see how John Mechie will be more of an impact player than the just seeing the preseason performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that Roman Wilson had, which I know you want to talk about, but how does John Mechie provide you with more than what Roman Wilson showed he could in that preseason game? I don't think it's there, especially if you're giving up assets to bring him in. If if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles again, I had this championship formula. I had this cachet from winning the Super Bowl where you can just plug these pieces in because you already have the core in place that is a winning core. The Steelers don't have that luxury right now. So going out and just taking a gamble on a receiver who has been a wide receiver 3 at best in his NFL career so far just does nothing for me. They should be big game hunting, going for the Terry McLaurins, going for someone along that line rather than thinking small. Go big. You got to at this point.
I agree. Let's talk Roman Wilson here. 2 receptions, 72 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Looked good. Probably could have had a touchdown on that long pass. And to be honest with you, if Mason Rudolph threw either of his passes to Roman Wilson the way he should have thrown them, because the 42-yarder was underthrown, that should have been a touchdown, and the one before that was an interception. That was a in the basket touchdown, no questions asked. Roman's got a step and a half on that guy, and Roman's fast. Would have outran him for sure. I mean, it was a good game, and it was a build off of a game where you said 2 receptions, good job. And then you're going 2 receptions for 72 yards, one of which was a deep ball, another one which was wide open. And I think it's very impressive of how he found the gap in the zone. And then the should have been a touchdown pass from Mason Rudolph that was intercepted instead. I mean, you wrote the story yesterday. Roman is finally looking like a wide receiver 2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you believe it? And kind of share your thoughts on why Roman Wilson is that guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, if you think he is.
It was not malarkey, the story that I wrote following the preseason loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was truly the first time that I have seen Roman Wilson. And, as many of the picnic pack will remind us, I have been very vocally critical of Roman Wilson throughout much of this training camp process. He really shifted my mind on Saturday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it was for one specific reason. He was getting space while lined up on the outside. This is the thing that we've been talking about. The biggest criticism we walked away from the joint practice was, look at all of these slot receivers and how are they going to effectively move the ball when they have 12 slot receivers? They needed someone to match DK Metcalf on the edge, on the outside rather. Is Roman Wilson the answer concretely? No, it was a preseason game. I understand that. His ability to separate from defenders quickly, show off that speed, and to do it while moving around the field and on the outside is just a game changer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he can do that against number one defenses in the regular season, then the Steelers absolutely have a wide receiver too. There is no need to go big game hunting, to bring that phrase back up again, because you have a player that is developing into that. I loved what I saw from Roman Wilson. I am confident now in a way that I was not a couple of weeks ago. And I think a week, this upcoming week being so pressure packed, being so under the microscope, is going to feel like a whole other offseason for Roman Wilson, because I think there's conversations happening behind the scenes. I think there's, Omar Khan is obviously looking at all the options for the wide receiver room. But if this was a confidence builder for Roman Wilson in a way that he comes to practice, dominates, does a little bit more against the Carolina Panthers this upcoming Thursday. I don't know if I see the need so drastically and desperately for an outside help, outside assistance at wide receiver too, because Roman Wilson just might be that guy.
Look at, I love the Roman hype. And I think what I've seen from Roman throughout the last 2 weeks is very impressive. And I love Roman playing the right role, which is slot. Stop putting him on the outside. He's not an outside receiver. He's not very good at being an outside receiver. He's great at being a slot guy. He's very physical at being a slot guy. He knows how to get the open gap. He's fast enough to beat slot corners. Like, that's what Roman Wilson does well. Is it a problem in your eyes that the Pittsburgh Steelers have two slot guys, Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, and do not have another outside guy? Because quite frankly, you can't play two slot guys at the same time in the slot, plus 3 tight ends and DK Metcalf. Like, that's just too many people in the box. Do you view it as a worrisome situation where the Pittsburgh Steelers have set themselves up to say, man, Roman's good in the slot, Scotty's good in the slot, Calvin's good in the slot, Connor Hayward's good in the slot, Johnny's good in the slot, Pat Fryermuth's good in the slot, DK's good in the slot. You want to know who's good on the outside? DK Metcalf. That's it. That's all we got. I mean, it's at some point you gotta, like, everybody could look good, but if you don't got a place for them, it doesn't matter. Are we starting to hit that point? Is that a growing concern along with the growing hype of Roman Wilson?
Maybe I'm crazy.
Okay.
I think of these options that are, quote unquote, many a slot guys. I think Roman Wilson has the best ability to translate to the outside, to shift to the outside. Maybe, again, I think that's maybe a hot take here, but I think because he has the speed, and again, from what I saw against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where one of my criticisms in training camp was like the route running just never looked very crisp. It never looked very sharp. But in the preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars and again against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it seems like there has been a slight switch that gets activated or flipped in these competitive environments where the route running suddenly looks a little bit crisper, a little bit faster, a little bit more precise. It looks like he's a little bit more, I don't want to say locked in as if I have an actual grasp of where he's at on the practice field mentally, but something different is slightly happening. And so I think he does possess the ability and the speed to kind of kick out to the outside. It makes no sense at this point to try to move Calvin Austin to the outside once he's fully healthy. It makes no sense to have Scotty Miller do that. It just won't be effective. Roman Wilson, I think, has maybe the best chance to do so. So, yeah, I think it's a concern. And as this hype train is growing, so does the general question of how does everybody fit. But if you have these pieces that are developing, I think you have to let them show you that they can't do it on a bigger stage while they're showing you that they maybe can right now. So I understand the concern, but I'm crazy, but I think Roman Wilson has the ability to maybe kick to the outside if they needed to. And I would love to see maybe an effort to see that happen.
Are you worried, though, that kick to the outside doesn't work out and then the Steelers go into it and go, it didn't work, what do we do now? And it's week 1 and you're just screwed. You know what I mean? Because we are getting dangerously, we have a week to figure a lot of stuff out. The Steelers have a week to figure a lot of stuff out. But at the same time, like, we are getting to the point of like decisions need to be made within the next 2 weeks. This is, you know what I mean? You're going to walk into week 1 with a roster and you're going to expect that roster to try to compete for a Super Bowl. If you walk into New York and Roman sucks on the outside and week 3 rolls up and Roman still can't figure it out on the outside and you're losing games, you are building a snowball that is going to be uncontrollable at some point during the season. Which, like, I agree with you that I think Roman of the 3 has the best outside capabilities. The Steelers would love to have Roman play the outside, but I mean, quite frankly, I think he looks terrible on the outside. Like, I don't think there's been a moment of training camp that I've sat there and said, "Oh, that was a good play by Roman Wilson, who lined up on the outside." There, like, very few to be. I just don't think I think against smaller corners or even more physical corners, on the inside, like, he's got the speed and the toughness to beat them off the ball, and he's quick enough in his routes to win those routes. But you go up against a guy like Joey Porter, who knows exactly what you're going to run before you're going to run it, or Darius Slay, who, like, he's already there. In Darius Slay's eyes, he knows exactly what you're doing before you even take off. And Roman can't seem to beat those guys. He's not technical enough. Is there a concern on your end of like you get to week one, it's not good enough, or and really the question with this is like, is that concern big enough to ignore, or is it big, or is it small enough to ignore, or is it big enough to force your hand to say, I would love to see Roman develop on the outside, but we got to add somebody.
The concern remains throughout all of the hype, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't go away just because Roman Wilson is showing improvement. But
Yeah.
my one counter to you to your most recent statements here is where he found space. You know, regardless of if he is uh, a slot guy, maybe, or wherever he falls within the offense, he found space and got open in the flat. And how many routes does your slot guy get open 25 yards downfield to be open considerably? And he had those defenders beat and creating space both times, three
Yeah.
times. Mason Rudolph doesn't deliver. So what gives me that encouragement, what gives me that belief that's growing, is that he can just separate from defenders. And I don't really, maybe he is perfectly designed for the slot, but what I think the Steelers need out of a wide receiver too is just someone who can stretch the defense in some way, someone who can get open downfield when everything else breaks down. Because I imagine the first 10 yards, the first 15 yards are going to have all of these incredible options for Aaron Rodgers to go to. DK Metcalf's doing his thing, drawing double coverage. Who can stretch the field on the other side? Who can bring a defender with him? And if they don't give him that respect, will burn him. I think Roman Wilson showed me that possibility exists most from him. So I don't care if he is a slot guy. I want to see the guy who can separate on the outside matching up with DK Metcalf. So again, could be totally wrong, could be a fiery disaster, but
Yeah.
that's what you got right now, unless you're going to go out and add a player like a Terry McLaurin. I think you got to give Roman Wilson a shot.
I like it. I like it. And I think that's the plan as of right now. Let's talk Caleb Johnson to finish this thing off. Didn't look great for a second preseason game. That was until the threes entered the field. And then all of a sudden, Caleb Johnson came alive. And look, we could say the game maybe slowed down in the second half for him, and that was a great moment. Or we could say Caleb Johnson still doesn't look good with the ones or the ones and the twos, which I think is an alarming situation for the Steelers. I'm not saying Caleb's a bad running back. I don't think that's the case. I think right now Caleb is running scared, and not scared to hit somebody, but scared to mess up. Everything is moving way too fast for the guy. That's what it seems like. It feels like the NFL level is just way too quick for what Caleb Johnson is trying to do right now. And eventually that slows down. Like we see that slow down with everybody. But right now it is very apparent that he is not confident in what he's seeing. It slowed down in the second half, and he had a couple of really nice runs and finished the game strong. I mean, did you leave Acrisure Stadium on Saturday night and go, Caleb's fine? Or did you leave and go, Caleb in the threes is not going to be there on, week one at MetLife Stadium?
Yeah. So the, uh, the description of Caleb Johnson as being like a volume runner,
Yeah. Which I hate, by the way.
I was gonna say, I hated that description because that was like the most PR way of saying I did better against worse competition. Like,
yes,
Caleb Johnson, the draft profile says explosive, right? The draft profile says sees a lane, can cut back, hits it hard. If it's okay for a rookie to still be learning, right? Like, and I think maybe the expectations, the takeaway I had from this was maybe the expectations for Caleb Johnson in year one were too high coming into training camp. That nothing is wrong with that if that's the case, and if he is just a player who needs some more seasoning, some time to fine tune things in the league. But I was not very impressed with the game. I know some other people, were very keen on those kind of runs he had. which were nice. It was good to see him have some sort of place where he was able to bounce it to the outside, but it seemed like that was the only sort of place he felt comfortable to go, and he missed a lot of very open reads in the process. The pass protection is still leaving a lot to be desired. He's not really a weapon in the passing game yet.
No.
So, you have this rookie who's very much a work in progress. And again, that is okay, but I think we need to very much temper our expectations for what Caleb Johnson can do. And what it does for me also is it elevates how important and essential Kenneth Gainwell is going to be for the Steelers
Yes.
offense moving forward, because it seems like he will be more of a complementary back to Jaylen Warren if this is the Caleb Johnson we are going to get week 1 against the New York Jets.
I agree. And again, like I expect at some point Caleb Johnson's going to be fine. And I agree. I hate and it gives me Benny Snell vibes of like Mike Tomlin constantly used to say like Benny Snell's great. You just need to give him reps. And I'm like, it's not. We're like, no, it's not. You don't need to give Saquon 6 rushes before he's good. You give him 1 rush, he's fine. That's what you need to be. To me, right now, Caleb is your running back 3 simply because the game is just too fast for him. And it's going to slow down eventually. It is. Like, it's going to happen, but it's just too fast right now. And you can't trust that he's going to go out there and break a big run because, quite frankly, he's not. Like, it's just not going to happen. Things could change. And again, my expectations for him are still very high, but they're not high come week 1. They're not high come week 2. Like Caleb right now is your 3rd guy on the field. And Kenneth Gainwell, like you said, is number 2. And he's going to play a huge role. Jaylen Warren's going to play a huge role. And quite frankly, like, I don't agree with the offensive line stinks with running the football. I don't agree with that at all, to be honest, because you watched that game on Sunday, and if you didn't pay close enough attention, go back and watch it and watch the offensive line and watch Caleb Johnson have numerous holes in the first half and not hit them at all, and that's what you were looking for. Like, they were there, they were present. They weren't huge. They weren't giant gaping holes like you had in the second half, but they were there. Like it was the ability to hit something and get 6-7 yards was in front of him and he couldn't see it. And again, I expect that to continue and to grow. But for right now, like Jalen's going to hit that hole, Kenneth is going to hit that hole. Kenny G is going to hit that hole. Like Caleb he's not right now. And I'm not worried about it, but I just think that everybody has to temper expectations come the regular season because he's not going to be the starting running back come week 2 or 3. And anybody who's sitting here making bold predictions that Caleb Johnson's going to take over the running back position over Jaylen Warren by the midway point, you're wrong at this point, just because we haven't seen it from Caleb. I expect it to change, but I agree with you. I think right now, good old Kenny G is the key piece to Pittsburgh's backfield, because without him, I just don't think that they're very good. And again, I'm not putting the blame on the offensive line, who I thought looked great for a second week in a row. And Troy Fautano beating Hassan Reddick time and time again is, I mean, to me, that's impressive. That's not a nobody, it's a pretty good edge rusher right there. I feel pretty good about it, but I agree with you. I don't think Caleb is your RB2 heading into week 1 in New York. All right, y'all. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. With that said, we will be back tomorrow. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.